My name's Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, we do this, and we do this, and we do this, and, you know, we come together, so many of us, as, you know, I mean, most people who watch television know that there's a tremendous number of people, although it looks like, you know, I'm on the camera alone, or I'm, you know, in your television set alone. But you know that there are tens and tens and hundreds of people, in a way, involved with getting it on your show, wherever you're watching it, and involved in the studio. And all of us, every one of us has lives. Every one of us has, you know, the dramas of our daily existence. And all of us go through that in one way or another. All of us are in these physical bodies. And all of us are gifted with the glory of this physical body, of this life, on this extraordinary planet with so much bounty and so much beauty. And yet, do we see that? Do we recognize that? Do we live this life in the experience of the joy that somehow we know is available? Is the momentum in our lives to know that love? I mean, we talk about it so much, is that in our heart of hearts, in the middle of the night, somewhere, sometime at the ocean, at the mountains, with a lover, we recognize that there is this vastness, there is this connection between all of us, that all the things that we think separate us, the races, the religions, the countries, the heights, the weights, the ages, the sexual preferences, everything that we think separates us, pales into the vastness of our love, into the vastness of our truth. And we all know that it's time that we focus, that the momentum of our lives moved into that recognition of that oneness, of that connectedness, of that truth, of that love, of that God. And the smaller parts of ourselves, which are, you know, from any viewpoint except sometimes the way we look at it as human beings, is so small in comparison to that love, to that vastness. It's like almost like you're wearing a gray suit versus a brown suit. So again, tonight's show of Bridging Heaven and Earth is about that, is about the momentum of that, is about the connection of that, is about the reconnection, the re-realization, the realization, because it's never been another way. Our connection has never been any other way. There is just one love, and we're all it. And tonight's guest, again, has dedicated his life to the realization of that, the experience of that, and the sharing of that in amazing numbers of ways. Prasad is a spiritual teacher. He's a life coach. He's an international author of numerous books, Dancing is the Infinite, God's Grace. He's the host of a weekly radio show, Lucid Living. And he's writing screenplays and involved in, has a band. And behind that, the root of that, the center of that, the heart of that is always to feel love and share it. So we're honored to have him with us tonight. And again, the show is about that. And again, we have music videos that, again, that energy, that vibration of love, that heart, that manifested heart is what these videos are about. Iasos is an extraordinary musician. The videos he's put together to go with his music are also just the heart manifest. So again, it's an opportunity for us all to come together, to get that momentum going, to come into that realization, one breath more, one breath more, one breath more. So, you know, it's an invitation, it's an opportunity. It's just, you know, let's love together and let's start that love just getting out there. So as we normally do, join me in a short meditation, and then we'll have a video, and then Prasad will be with us. So please join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So we're going to start tonight's show with a Iasos music video. It's really magnificent. Settle in. Prasad will be with us shortly, and it's an opportunity. Hi, that was beautiful. We're on set with Prasad. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Yeah. So, you wrote a book, Dancing as the Infinite. What did that mean to you? And, you know, what does it mean to dance as...
Yeah, so what does the title mean? Because you know how books are really hard to come up with the title. And actually it's a collection of spoken word that I just spontaneously spoke the way you just did at the opening of the show. So a bunch of people, just like your crew here, transcribed it and then edited it, and then the book was and another lovely woman named Chetna designed the whole book. It's a beautiful design, and each page can be open to its own page, you know. But the title was the hardest part. So we had many suggestions, and originally it was called Living in Freedom. But we wanted something a little bit more poetic. And dancing as the infinite points to exactly what you said, who we are, the vastness, the endlessness, the oneness, because it's all inclusive of all of us. It has no beginning or end. You know, I think God originally said, I am the Alpha and the Omega in the Old Testament. It's like, we are beyond the Alpha and the Omega. We are the source from which the Alpha and the Omega rise. We have no beginning or end.
Right, and at some point, and we've talked about this in the show before, and you know, it's like when the Father and I are one, then it all compresses into that oneness.
So it's really the realization.
Right.
It's the realization that the Father and I are one, because they are. It already is so. Yeah.
Right. It can't be otherwise.
Right.
So, and when people come to the book, I mean, that's what you would like them to take out of it. That is their actuality, their potential, their whatever space they're in to take that in.
Well, the book is designed so that when you open it to any page, you receive the perfect message for the moment. And I know that we are all creating our realities in this moment, so that whatever page they open is themselves speaking to themselves, to trigger the awakening or to bring them back into the silence from which we are, you know, we all originate from. So the book is just a pointer to point us back to that which we already know.
Mm-hmm. And does the book have different tools that are helpful to people?
No, it's just a collection of talks.
Point.
Yeah, it's a collection of talks. It's not a self-help book at all. It's a collection of talks, and when you open the page, it will just remind you of who you are. It's magic.
Right. It is amazing how those things work. And then you open one, and it's like absolutely perfect for you at that moment, then you open another one. So, and the response to the book has been fantastic over time.
Yeah.
And so, how do you see yourself moving through this infinite? How do you see your dance moving? I know you have the radio show, you've been writing, you're doing music. And
yeah, you mentioned in my band, the band is Freedom, but I'm not in the band. I'm this kind of, I was the manager, but they're unmanageable. So we've all agreed that there is no manager.
Another title.
I'm not the manager.
Oh.
When I say, hello, I'm not the manager.
I'm the unmanager.
But I first heard them years ago on Maui, and I was inspired by them, and my inner voice said, help bring the music to the world, so I did. So I listened to my inner voice. I get out of the way and let the flow happen. And I'm multitasking at the moment.
Yeah, talk about, you know, how that inner voice becomes the real voice, and all the ideas in your head, and all the separations, and all the fears and doubts, and that true voice becomes real. How did that happen? Well, that's the
meditation that, you know, like you had a moment of meditation, which is very bold to have that on TV. You know, let's have quiet moments.
You know, it's funny, at a local store in town, a guy came up to me and said, you're very courageous. And I didn't know whether he meant because I was eating there, or, you know, what exactly was going on. Why was it? He said, because you do meditation on TV. And I said, well, what do I have to lose?
But I haven't tried it in the radio show yet. There'd be a block of
well, you know, this show is on, the audio portion is on.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there is a big block, but I announce it, so people go, oh my God. And usually we don't do it for too long, because the crew goes, he's gone too long, and they'll snap their fingers.
But that meditation is an opportunity for each person to get back to the silence. It's in that silence that we witness our thoughts. So the inner voice is not a thought.
Starts to happen.
Right, exactly. It's like at first people think that they're one entity. This is who I am, and they're talking mostly about their personality and their body, but with impulses of the deeper self. And then when someone starts meditating, it's almost like they're two people. So it's the one watching the other. So I am the one observing my body-mind, my persona. And so people feel a little, you know, schizophrenic in those times, a little split, until you're watching the body-mind enough that you see that this personality is nothing but a thought rising in your consciousness. So it appears and it
feel as good to identify with that, because then you're all over the place.
That's
and there is a place of peace.
The peace is the observing, where you're watching it, but by the same token, you give your body-mind full permission to do the dance, and that's why I call it dancing as the infinite, because it's a dance.
We're in a physical body.
Exactly. We're not in a cave.
Right.
We could. In another life, you and I are a couple of Babas sitting in the cave, smoking a chillum, and every so often somebody comes, here's my love. You might sing, oh, you think
we have to talk with, hello, very good, come into the cave.
Love, come have some Prasad. So it's that witnessing that is crucial for everyone just starting, especially people who are just starting in this awakening. I just received a call just downtown. A young man I met on New Year's Eve. I had a hit about him. One of these, the same inner voice. I approached him, and I had this intuition that he would be good to work with. My first student, when I first came back from India, is this gentleman about a little older than myself who is an amazing musician, and he teaches music to youth, and he uses my book and tapes to enhance it. So this kid called me, having had an awakening. I haven't talked to him for 6 months, and he had a little block he needed to get through, and I coached him through it. That's what I mean by coach. It's like everybody knows the answer within themselves. I'm just pointing them back. And those people who are looking outside of themselves for the answer, well, they keep the religions and the gurus, in business. And so I'm about putting them out of business. I'm like, when I first went to India, I was the guru buster. That's what I used to call myself. This was back in '95, 10 years ago. And I met the master who put an end to my search. His name is Punjaji. We called him Papaji. And he put the end to my search. He said, stop seeking, for you are already that which you seek. Right. And I realized if I'm seeking and I'm putting it in the future and it's not happening now and I'm working towards it, it's always now. The love is now, the awakening is now.
It cannot be any other way. Yeah. Right. And so from that point on, you came back here, and then that realization just started manifesting in all the ways, verbally, writing,
exactly.
Music. And
well, it started with just giving talks in people's living rooms. And I was so passionate about sharing this message that we are already free. Stop searching. That I was giving talks every night all around the country.
People couldn't, it was like the old joke is, at the bus stop, buddy.
Exactly.
No, it's so powerful.
It was powerful.
So real, and it's out of such love.
I had a lot of love and service, and I was 5 nights a week plus every weekend a workshop for 4 years. And the book is derived from that period of my life. But at one point, I was in Sedona, Arizona, which I currently am residing. But by the time this is aired, I probably won't be there anymore.
I know what you're talking about. You're a moving
I move
target.
around a lot. I'm not mad. I'm nomad.
Right.
And I was in Sedona, and this gentleman who was one of my assistants traveling with me came up to me and he said, Prasad, it's a great movie going around waking up the world. The only problem is you have to see them as asleep first in order to do that. And I was like, you're right. Why don't I see them as already awake? And since then, I moved to Maui, and then I've been on the road with this band, the Freedom Band, and everyone I see, especially young people, wide awake, living Buddhas. This is my reality, and I'm seeing it, and I'm encouraging it. So when I see someone in their awakened state, that is so much more beneficial for their soul, for their being, than to be the guru who's going to wake them up after you must study for many years, my love. Sit underneath the Bodhi tree. Well, Buddha already did that.
Yeah, it's done.
You have to find You got to find what it is that is your doorway, and it's usually connected to your own suffering, where your suffering is so freeing. That's why I said turn suffering into so freeing.
Like the test
it's the doorway, which can, for some, is the dark night of the soul. They take it really far.
Right. Well, I mean, you have to be hungry in some way, on some level, because there's so much. I was saying to somebody yesterday that, with all the gifts we've been given, it's amazing that we haven't gone further in some ways as a human species. And with all the density and the negativity and the wars and the separation, it's amazing we've come this far. And like all of us are in that gray kind of as a human species, ready to explode into that recognition, that full recognition. And that's like this period we're in now.
Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and Arjuna, that classic scene when Arjuna is watching his family at war, and he's like, but my Lord, how can I do that? He says, because life is a game or life is a play your part. This is all consciousness. And in a way, that's the message now, but it's more like what I'm saying. This is why I'm on the air with you now and why I have a radio show. My message now is, okay, you've woken up to who you are. You've worked on yourself in the 70s and realized yourself in the 80s, and the 90s. Now it's the 21st century. It's time to live in that action.
Right. Bridge heaven and earth.
Bridging heaven and earth.
Right. Yeah.
And it's spiritual activism.
Right, I agree.
And there's a man named Rob Rabin, perhaps he can be on your show sometime, and he's got a website and a movement of those of us who are involved in this. He's asking us to write. I'm going to invite you to as well, to write on this website, truthforpresident.org, so that he feels that there are 1 million yoga meditation practitioners in this country. That's a low estimate. And so if all of you meditators and yoga practitioners and spiritual seekers and those of you who have realized the self and know it's all an illusion, decide to focus your minds and your hearts on what is the greatest gift that the world can have, like how we can create heaven on earth. Well, the first step is that leaders have to be selfless, humble servants, not greedy warmongers. Okay?
Wow.
So that's our first step.
Wow, how radical you're going.
And we can definitely visualize that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And see the current leaders as that. But we're feeding this whole...
Right, energetically.
Yes.
Right,
so we shift it inside ourselves and see our leaders as leading us into this heaven on earth. Bridging this heaven on earth, you know? So, and then there are other many different ways, like where you put your dollars, how you buy, do you buy recycled products, all of that. Every manifestation.
Yeah, there's no minute where you're not.
So instead of being in the cave, you and I are on TV, and we're here to invite everyone watching to be active in your spiritual awakening now, and share with your friends and family. Don't be afraid, what I call, don't be afraid to come out of the closet as God. That's one of my chapters, to really step forward to what you know to be true. Now is the time. We're asking you. Your own self is asking you, now's the time, because this is the last movement of moving into the light. It's that whole shadow that's coming stronger. The brighter we get, the darker the shadow. Right. And so we all come together, and it's a done deal. I see it happening already.
Right, no, it's
a done deal.
Yeah, it's a done deal.
This is part of it, is that we're inviting you to
close out the deal.
Yeah, do your part.
Right.
Have fun doing it. It's an open.
And then whatever you're doing is joyous and loving, and it can only be that, you know, because if you're vibrating that, if you're manifesting that, what can you do that will be outside that?
And you can't create peace through war. You can't feel love through suffering. Those are all doorways for us to realize, you know what? We don't need to go there anymore, isn't it?
Right.
You suffer enough to say, I don't need to anymore. And the behavior changes.
I prefer not to.
Yeah.
You know,
and then your behavior
there's something I could do not to go to that suffering. You know, what am I gaining? You know, but you have to, you know, it's like just say no to drugs, just say no. You have to have something to just say yes to, and that's the experience of love. That's the experience of the infinite, and that's...
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's why you do what you do.
Yeah.
That's why we do what we do.
Yeah, and it's seeing people as already awake and encouraging people to then take some kind of action from that deeper place. If enough of us are coming from the love, you can feel it in the room. It happens by itself. It's inviting people to give themselves permission to be the love that they are, to stop waiting for someone else to give them the approval or the attention that their ego is needing in order to be themselves. I say, be yourself now. Be yourself. And everything will happen in divine perfection. It's just about people stepping up to being who they are this lifetime.
Right. It's actually as simple as that.
And the time of the Buddhist is over. The time of the Christian is over. Now it's the time of the Buddha and the Christ, which we all are. To me, the second coming of Christ is the awakening of consciousness that's happening for all of us. You and I were lucky. We surrendered early. We got lit up early. But it's not special.
No, absolutely.
The time of the guru and enlightenment and blah, blah, blah is over.
Ascension.
It's an ascension. Yeah, exactly. To what? We're here now. Woohoo!
Yeah, right.
But it's the realization that this is all a movie, that there are people behind cameras, metaphorically speaking,
yeah, right.
But that your life is a movie, and you're the creator, you're the writer, the director, and the star. Make it a wonderful one. Make it one you enjoy.
Yeah, love it.
Love it. And when you suffer, enjoy, cry through those moments. And when you're angry, that's the thunder and the lightning. Give permission to this. When you realize yourself, there's
just no resistance. There's no concept.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Exactly.
And in the moment, there's no concept. And everywhere else, there is.
And then there's freedom. In the moment, there's freedom because there's no concept. And the bridging between heaven and earth is when the divine self is guiding this puppet.
Right.
I am the puppet.
There is no real separation.
Master.
We're just using words. Because there is no heaven, there is no earth, and there is. Right.
But when you say the divine and the human, so to speak, there is an apparent separation there, and that's the I thought that rises, the ego that rises and perceives itself as a separate entity for the fun of it. Really, it's God wanting to look at itself.
Right.
Or play with itself.
Yeah, I would call that the experiment.
Exactly.
That's an interesting experiment.
That's part of it. And when you wake up, you don't have to change it. So many people on the spiritual path are denying their humanity.
Right.
Because somewhere
or
there's
a
something
concept
that
you're supposed to wear white, you're supposed to wear, you know,
I wore white for 4 years. Then I went into black leather. Now I'm a suit.
Now you're
right. Somebody gave
now
me
you're
this.
kind of coming to the center. No, it's like, really, you can wear anything. What difference?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
when
matter.
you realize yourself as nobody,
right.
because the realization is of the nobodiness, then you can be anybody that existence needs you to be for the moment. Play the role,
yeah, like
Krishna said to Arjuna,
right.
an empty vessel.
Yeah, and it's like love in motion. So what would love in motion do at this moment? You wouldn't know until you got there. You know, but if there's no resistance and no concept of who you are, you know, that you're a guru or an unguru, a talk show host or not, you know, nothing. Because in that moment, you're nothing and everything.
So I'm really, my teaching is more in my action of my living. I'm actually 58, I was born in 58, so I'm a dog, the year of the dog. The same as Madonna, Michael Jackson, and Prince. So I'm kind of in this kind of, you know, well, we all change our image all the time, so I'm constantly redefining the form because I have realized the formlessness, and so there's complete
if we
permission.
never believe it, then it's like what
complete permission. So part of my teaching, if you will, for those who have been following me for a while, not following me, but following, you know, watching me. I don't have followers, but those people who have been kind of watching me and kind of learning with me, they see the evolution of this character as part of the grand experiment. The freedom to move in and out of roles and so many different lives and worlds spinning at the same time. I feel like one of those guys spinning plates, you know, I've got like half a dozen plates and spinning at the same time. And I move seamlessly in and out of these lives. And there's room for more too, because I am the creator and the creation.
Well, we talk about, like, you know, what the Bridging Heaven Earth Foundation of the show, it's infinite and inclusive. So what does that eliminate? And what can it do, you know, with in the right circumstances, with the right, you know, combination of things? It could do anything.
If you're open.
Yeah,
just stay open to the miracle and see what happens.
Exactly. There's no limit to it.
This is the nature of God. People think God is an object to be worshipped. God is the subject that is watching it all happen. God is the pure awareness that we are. Right. So God is talking to itself right now. But the delicious thing about speaking with you, Alan, is that I recognize it, you recognize it.
Yeah, it's fun.
And it's fun and easy. Right. And all of my friends do. Like, it's a huge movement that's happening. If you want to be my friend, you got to be awake. If not, then you're gonna have to have a session with me or something. You know what I mean? Or read my book. You know, it's like so many of my friends were wide awake. It doesn't mean you don't have human issues. It doesn't mean you don't get your heart broken if you fall in love, or your knees broken if you fall down. That all happens as part of being human. Right. But your awakeness is that there are no victims. We all know we're one, and there's an evolution of spirit.
Yeah, the momentum is just much stronger.
Exactly. It's an acceleration of the spiritual wisdom for this world, because, you know, I think it was stuck. I think the record was skipping for a few thousand years. You know,
yeah, but again, it depends, you know,
from the perspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, a skipping record, it's a blink of an eye. That's why I use that metaphor. It's like click, click, and then, oh yeah. And now we're like, oh yeah, we're flowing again. The music is flowing. It was a little bit of a glitch where the Kali Yuga kind of got held a little longer.
The Dark Ages.
And it had to do with the misidentification with the physicality that was needed to bring in the Industrial Revolution and the high-tech revolution and all of the development of the material, but we have neglected the spiritual up until, you know, recently.
We had a short spiritual leg. It was very fun. All right, well, maybe we will watch another video, Iasos music video. Are we ready for that? Let us see it. Hi, we're back on the set. So why don't you talk a little bit about one of your newer projects is like radio show that's on the internet, Lucid Living it's called?
Lucid Living with Prasad. It's on www.enlightenedtalkradio.com.
And so that's an internet radio station.
Internet radio station. And we're hosted by healthylife.net, so they can get there either way. And it's really the future. And like you're on Success Talk, they can hear the archives of your show on Success Talk. So the internet is really the future. In fact, I predict, Alan, you and I will be having a conversation on video that will be video streamlined.
Well, yeah, we do that right now.
Oh, really?
The two most recent shows are now. So the last two shows. So like starting about a week or two from now for the next month, this show will be free on the internet.
Look at how quickly my prediction came true.
It's unbelievable.
And it's really the future. So those of us who are in the ground floor of that, it's something new we're breaking in. And unlike the dot-commers of the commerce, because that was so greedy and old paradigm mentality, that it wasn't supported. Where the internet is really a new paradigm mentality, like the Google search guys, for instance. It's all, that's created so that anyone can start a business through the search engines.
And there's no countries, there's no time.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
like John the Baptist. It's beautiful. I get emails from people all around the world who hear the show. So I'm very pleased to have that available. But I'm also working on a film for conscious kids, and that's something I'm in the LA area right now working on, about enlightened youth. Kids whose parents from the 60s raised their kids without giving them too many concepts that they'll have to just get rid of later, work through in therapy or whatever. And when I retired, I told you the story how I retired from trying to wake up the world because I wanted to see people as already free. Well, I started hanging out with kids in their early 20s, teenagers all the way up to mid-20s. And because my satsangs, my gatherings, were a lot of, middle-aged people who were seeking for years, and I helped them finish and helped them find themselves. But I'm all about the young people right now. So I started going out and hanging out with them at the beach in Maui or on the festival circuits with the bands that I've been helping to produce, and having satsang with these kids. And it's been remarkable because they're already here. They're right here. And I'm just there to help support them to not doubt it, to recognize it. It's like when someone asks for directions, you know how to get to Santa Barbara? I said, we're already here. Oh, no, I hear it's further down the road. No, it's right here. You're here already. A lot of people have trouble stopping. With kids, if they hear it from someone like me, in fact, that I kind of almost evolved into this current incarnation just to be able to hang with them. And so I've written this movie script called Woodstock High, which is about conscious youth. And I'm in the middle of manifesting that as part of my own lucid living experiment. You see, because since I was a little kid, lucid living is, lucid dreaming. People maybe have heard of. Lucid dreaming is when we're aware we're dreaming at night, and you'd be like, "Hey, Alan, I'm having a dream with you. Yeah, I'll see you in the morning." It's like, so lucid living is acknowledging that this life is also a dream, like Krishna said to Arjuna. So when we're awake in this dream, it's lucid living. And we can begin, like one of your crew members during the rehearsal, got it right away. I was like, oh, so then you can start to create lucidly from your own life. And that's exactly what you do, but not from your mind with its desires and aversions, wanting this and, creative visualization, but from source, aligning yourself with your intention of what is so, what is already so, the flow of your whole life as existence. When you align yourself with that, then you can make, the inner voice, first of all, is then louder. You asked me that question before. Because there's alignment.
There isn't,
all of that other stuff is
chatter
away.
There,
And then a creative impulse comes that is what you're speaking of already, the love, the celebration, the creativity, and you give permission to it. And you just go with it, and you trust. Even if the mind says, no, we can't do that. You don't listen. Doubt the doubt.
Well, the infinite is much stronger.
Exactly. So the infinite is guiding me to make this movie since I'm a little kid, and it's just a movie, it's no big deal. But I'm doing it just to prove to myself that it can unfold effortlessly. without worrying about what will happen in the end, trusting fully that
Well, there is no end.
Is exactly. When I mean like distribution or whatever.
Right.
You know, the things you think about in Hollywood.
I understand, and it's like, but if, it's always one breath at a time.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of breaths between here and distribution, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, to live each moment with what I would call something like that as an intention.
Yeah.
Our intention is to do the movie, and then remove
see what happens.
Right.
Because that takes you in the direction.
And the integrity and the love and the joy is in every moment, or else we stop. What's the point?
That's the point of lucid living, is to just allow your life unfold consciously. Allow your life to unfold, watching it, and then knowing when to act. I find the less I do, the more I get done. The more I sit back and watch and then speak only in that key moment or act only in that key moment, more gets done that way.
Yeah,
much more
I mean,
effectively.
There's just a lot less resistance.
Yeah.
So when you decide to, when it's like appropriate to do something, you just do it.
Right.
It's like,
it happens by itself. Yeah.
I mean, you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I think that, and then what we were talking about earlier is that that inner voice, I would call it like what people look for is discernment. I mean, it's all lining up as one. So, I mean, there's not a separation. You don't really have to think about it. It's just like, how would love move?
In the early days, yeah, that's a good question. How would love move? But in the early days for someone as they're just coming into that and they want to be able to discern, I also asked, am I serving self, meaning self with a capital S, or am I self-serving? If you're moving from separation, if you're moving from me, I need this, scarcity consciousness, or I'm victim consciousness, if you're moving from separation, chances are that's not your inner voice. So let it go. Whatever you're thinking right then, let it go. And listen to that other voice.
A little quieter behind
from there.
Right.
It's just been waiting patiently for you to get clear enough to hear, and it will guide you every time. And you can prove it to yourself by not doing what it tells you and watch what happens. So I'm like across the board when I get the guidance now. I just, and it can come as words, it can come as feelings, it can come as images. It's hard to say how it is.
Right.
It actually comes the strongest as it shows up it's like, here are the orange flowers or whatever they appear on your screen.
Right.
Instead of saying, oh, they should be a different color, they're whatever they appear on your screen.
Right.
And you flow with the hand that's dealt to you.
Right.
And then you play it. You play it for fun and you play it totally committed. It's that duality of being completely committed while knowing that it's all a dream anyway that allows you to transcend duality and simply be.
Amen. That's great. Yeah, it's in simple terms. It's funny. We had Vanessa Stone. Do you know Vanessa?
No.
On last week, we were saying the same thing. I mean, we do a talk show, you do a radio show, and every time it's simple. It's like 2 sentences, and it could be the show's over, and then we'll talk for another hour.
Sure.
I mean, that's like part of on the bridge of heaven and earth.
Well, we're pointing. It's more. It's not. And those who are listening, it's not about the words.
And it's a vibration too.
Exactly.
Right.
Even with my book, it's like one. You are that. That's all that's needed for the book. All the words are pointing you to that. That's all. So you and I are just pointers, like you said. You mentioned John the Baptist earlier. We're like that. And this is the musicians I work with are also like this. They're singing songs of conscious awakening. And so what we're about is, we're prophets. We're not for profit, And those are the people who I know today in the media who are not about the money, but are about the message. Without being preachy either. It's really a very simple message. You're already free.
And it's joyous.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's not like
a dogma.
Right.
There's no dogma.
Right. I mean, it's like when the dogma comes in, then you get the separation, then you get, holy wars, then you get all the stuff that's happened for thousands of years.
Well, my dogma ran over my karma. You heard that, right? So it's finished.
Right.
But yeah, the whole war thing, I'm speaking about that in the on the radio as well, just to
this war that
whatever war,
right. I mean, I always say
this war that's going on right now in Iraq is the same war that's been going on in the Middle East for so long, and it's always about oil or land or religious differences, which is still about oil and land, because religious differences are like, you have to worship a different god, so I'm not going to share my land and food with you. So again, any god that creates separation in the believer, they've misidentified.
Something's
God,
disharmonious.
Right, God is the oneness. And Jesus said it, love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself.
A simple earthly creed, you would think that would have some meaning.
So I figure that there has to be the opportunity for God consciousness, the Buddha itself, to have the experience of ignorance. So whenever I see people who seem to be operating from ignorance, if they're suffering, if they're aware of their suffering and need help and they ask me, I'm right here, always. And usually the right words come for them. But if they're just in their ignorance and not asking me for help, I let them sleep now. In the past, I had the urge to wake them up.
Yeah, right.
And now I've let it go. Now it's like, it's Buddha in disguise. It's my gift to be able to see them as the Buddha. To see our president as the Buddha while they seem to be operating from separation. To just know that I'm not going to add to that separation. I know they're me. I know they're my own self.
Right.
We're all one. You know?
Right. And yet sometimes it's appropriate to shake somebody. I mean, there's no, you know what I mean? So, I mean, at that moment, what's the appropriate action?
Well, if it's asked of me, and that's for those who are listening too, if it's asked of you, because the kid who called me today was all like, I'm trying to help my girlfriend, I gave her one of your tapes, you know. I said, no, she has to come to it herself.
Right.
So if it's asked of you, then be there for him. Be a witness of the truth. But wait for that moment when it's receptive. It's much better than trying to push it.
Yeah, you can't ram it down someone.
And that's why with you and I, we're just a couple of crazy guys, as you said during the break, you know, doing that little number here, some of, you know, but the truth is, you are already free. That's it. You're already that which you look. And I'm really, I hope to be remembered when on my gravestone, the guy who came out of the closet is God. Because that's what's needed. It's God is waking up and saying, you know what, my creation has been running around by itself unattended for a while. I think I'll pay a little attention to it. Oh, the roses need a little pruning. We need to compost. You know, you can let it grow wild, or you can compost and prune and you get this. So God works in mysterious ways to take care of its creation. And I see it everywhere. I see God taking care of itself everywhere. And so I'm here to help, not to hinder. So be part of the creative solution, you know?
If you were hindering,
well, that's my ex-girlfriend. She knew what that was like, so.
We've all been there, trust me. If we took on a physical body somewhere along the line, unless we kidding ourselves, and then the explosion's going to happen at any moment, you know? So, in other words, like, whatever tomorrow will bring for you, the intention would be is to whatever that inner voice, whatever that love in motion, as it manifests through you, will take you, it'll take you. And then it's
yeah, we can have no idea.
Right.
You can have no idea where you're going to be really taken by love. But there's a vision, or the intention I have since I'm a little boy is really that love to be across the planet, and that everyone gets to be themselves in
Is
this
that
movie.
first, or is the headstone first? No.
I'll be cremated. Hopefully there'll be no headstone.
All right, good. So,
but really, it's an
put it
opportunity. You know, I first had to work on myself. So I came from, you know, pain and victim and unworthiness, alcoholic father, blah, blah, blah. And I worked on myself until I finally dropped, when I realized I couldn't work on myself.
You made so much effort that you realized there was no effort you could make. Right.
So that's what I'm telling you kids, you don't have to do that. You know?
Right.
But in the dropping, the perfection of who I am is realized. And so I move from that place, even when the mind rises, you know, with something, oh, okay, I better, you know, fix this, or I better fix my hair, or whatever it is, the mind rises to, oh, you better not eat that food, because you know if you eat the cooked food, your energy's going to drop. Why don't you go for the live, raw food? I say, okay, and you change your behavior like that. We're being guided. Many people are being guided to raw food right now, by the way, the live food. I hope you do a show on that with somebody who knows about it, because it's really, you look at the difference between eating cooked food and eating raw food. The energy, the chi is alive in the raw food, and you need less and all of it. So, but cooked food's delicious, for fun. You know? So that it's just being available to tell people what's available and not push it on them. These are just alternatives, but it works for me now. It's like I tested it on myself first, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. So it's not about the high. It's not about when I first came when I first started giving talks and first came back from India. People, when they saw me, they were like idolizing me. It was very weird. They were like, oh. You know, I was wearing white, but that's not enough.
Look how wonderful and handsome you are.
And I tried to dispel that, and I did through my retirement. You know, I retired
After 4 years of
4 years. And I tell you the truth, I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for the radio show. It all happens by itself.
I understand.
But by the same time, I recognize my responsibility to myself in all forms. And like the Buddha realized in his enlightenment, until all beings have recognized themselves, we're not fully enlightened. So that's what motivates us.
And plus, it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun connecting with people on a real level, on a deep level.
Right.
I go to parties in Hollywood, people like sniffing cocaine or whatever, and I'm like, yes, did you know we're one? You know, I move right into satsang with them when they're on their various drugs, and a lot of young people I meet at raves and at festivals, and they're all on some psychedelic or something, and I will speak to them then. And they don't have to be that way, but in that moment, I especially will take the time to speak to them.
Right.
But I'll meet anyone. In truth, I love accessing the self in all forms. I love it. The person you might be the most surprised that would be available, those are the ones that are available.
Not if you didn't have a concept.
Exactly, if you don't have a concept. Exactly.
So, I mean, how do we go, and then, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The thing I say a lot to people is, just take it easy. We get so worked up. We wrote, this woman and I, Leslie, we wrote, this album, and one of the songs went, you can try too hard when it's easy. And we get, so worked up with ascension, because the hunger's there, and we know something. And that door hasn't swung open yet. We haven't somehow gotten to the place where
it happened.
It's happening.
Okay, it is happening, and it happened for me like this because the hunger is not the same. When I was younger and I was suffering, the hunger was to get out of the suffering and to get enlightened. And a lot of people who are on that spiritual path, because I sat with thousands, are coming from that place. What happens is once you realize yourself and see that I am already that, you're full. There is no more hunger.
Right.
There's nothing left to do.
Right.
And you have that moment of just sitting and being. And that's important to have that. But that's where the lucid living then comes in. Because in that silent beingness, then the impulse comes. I drove all the way from Sedona to come to be on this show in Santa Barbara. Well, it's nip and tuck, meaning what Alan means is that we didn't know for sure if I would do this show. He had just invited me last minute because I live in my life in that now.
That's exactly how
By the same token, I said to you finally, I will commit to be there. And you knew because you are my own self that means I will be there.
Short of something very rare.
Exactly. And so there's an understanding between us. We don't know each other personally. We haven't met except briefly once. It's that understanding. When you realize your oneness, you get to have a family everywhere you go. Everyone else is one. We recognize each other. Not that everyone isn't one, but the ones who recognize it, we recognize each other, and we operate from that place. And there's almost not an expectation, but a standard by which we have to live. That if you have a piece of candy there and you don't split half and share it with me, or offer it, there's usually like, what's going on? Is there a personal agenda? And that's the question, is like, am I serving self or am I self-serving? If I'm preoccupied by my own personal agenda of getting the ego attention, because that's basically what it is, getting the approval you didn't get as a child, working so hard to be good, to make money, whatever it is. Once you burn that all up and you're just available as that empty vessel, then whatever needs to happen, we're willing to do.
Yeah, there's no roles, there's no nothing.
And you're guided. You're guided, and you just follow that inner guidance, that inner highway, the inner voice, and you can do no wrong. There are no mistakes.
Right. I mean, we talk about, like doing the show with all the people involved. We do the best we can. We do a live show. I mean, right as we're talking in Santa Barbara on June 4th, it's going out over the air. And we do the best we can. Everybody wants it to be good, and then we go eat. It's done. We did the best we could, and then you go eat. And that's like true for all of life, is to be, fully in that moment, as you were saying earlier, and then you move on to the next one.
And each person's awakening is their own unique awakening. That's the thing people mistake. If you're busy trying to find the way Jesus did it, or the way Buddha did it, or the way your guru did it, you miss the unique almost DNA that's there for your own awakening. It's unique to yourself, as unique as your fingerprints. So you have to find it yourself. And once you find it, and you go totally into it and through it to the other side, then your sharing of it will also be unique. And there'll be a whole bunch of people who will resonate with your particular way of doing it. You know?
Right,
Instead
exactly.
of being these robots repeating
Right.
2,000 years later, still quoting the words of this particular master who happened to have woken up, who was a carpenter, and they're still quoting him and misquoting him, and so far removed that they have no direct experience
Right.
of the Christ consciousness. They're busy looking at the form.
We're always like one or two masters behind. No, there's some incredible thing like that because it doesn't look right. Because we have a concept of what spiritual would look like and what it wouldn't. And
Profit in their own land. Right?
yeah, right. And it generally is like that because the nature of concepts.
The nature of concept.
So there's a couple of minutes left. You know, why don't you? There are, over time, there are going to be millions of people watching. Just say what you said. You said it again. Say it one more time. Look at the camera. Go for it.
What I really want to say to you, all of you who are watching, is the time is now. Your awakening is now. There's no future. There's no past, really. The past didn't even happen. It's happening in our minds as a reference point to make this moment seem real. But the interesting thing about the now is it's eternal. So Alan and I are speaking now to you in this camera, and you are listening now whenever you happen to hear it, these words. So the now is eternal. This is something people don't totally recognize. They think the now is this present moment, but it shows up in the present because only the present is real. The past and future are in your minds, but the now is eternal and includes the past and future, and it runs off into infinity. So dance as the infinite, be the self, recognize your role as God consciousness, and take responsibility for your creation, and together we can bridge heaven and earth.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. So, again, we're coming to the end of the show. I mean, I think a lot was vibrated, a lot was said. A lot of love was shared. So if you want any information about Prasad, the books, where he's going to be, it's Alan, 805-687-2053, 805-687-2053. I'll give you any information you want. Really, you're there, and we can have joy and just play and collaborate together, and that's what it's about. So we love you. Good night. God bless you. Thanks for coming. Come again. Good night.